So up next now, let me talk about Terrifier 3. So
Sure.
before I start, because I know you haven't seen it, right? Two things.
So
One,
I have not seen any of the Terrifier movies.
all right, that was the first question I was going to ask, right? So
Nope.
thank you. But second question, do you have any intentions of doing so, and if not, why?
I do not think so. I mean, I heard that it's supposed to like scratch the itch of really like, oh well, it's not trying to be, it's trying to be like really off the cuff, out of the off the beaten path when it comes to horror movies. So I'll probably give it a chance in that sense. And the budget is like super low from what I understand, so it make money. It's like, yeah, okay. It doing what Blumhouse should be doing. I heard that's what it doing. Like Blumhouse is kind of half-assed. This is like really actually terrifying. Alright, I'll give it a shot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Another horror movies I hear it's get kind of dumb. I don't know. We'll see.
I'll
This
talk.
gonna be a beer life. It's gonna be like some I feel like gonna be a beer life and gonna go watch it. Whoever visit some friends, you find out.
Well, I can't even begin to imagine how the experience of watching that drunk will feel, but
Right.
maybe I will try it one day, right? But yeah, as you say, budget, right? So I have to remind myself, right? The last film, Terrifier 2, right? Which I actually had as a guilty pleasure back when I covered it 2 years ago, right? Yeah, the budget was 250,000
Yeah, that's
US,
nothing.
and this shit make
Like
15 million,
yeah, that's like real. Like I mean, that taken Blumhouse and that carried it to the next level.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
one is 2 million is the budget, and this shit make
Oh, wow.
51 million us.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Like as as indie fans, as indie film fans, that
Yeah.
shit is amazing, right?
Yeah.
But
That
yeah,
real bang for your buck.
yeah,
Yeah.
real bang for your buck, right? So here's the thing with me with Terrifier, right? So yeah, so I jumped on the train when Terrifier 2 was making the rounds, and people were just talking about, oh my god, this is such an amazing, splatter film, right?
Right.
Of course, I had to recap the first one. Sorry, not recap, I had to watch the first one. And yes, it did. And one thing I'll give the show though, it is consistent with the 80s aesthetic, right? It's a contemporary show, right? Series, right? But it has that 80s lens to things, right? Whether it's the synth music, whether it's just the dark tone and feel of it, and just right down to the color, the grading of it. Yeah, it's a homage to not just to mainstream slasher films like Nightmare on Elm Street or the Friday the 13th series, right? But more on the independent 80s horror films, right? The stuff that didn't get were left unrated, right? Because they just wanted to show all the blood, all the guts, all the nudity, all the violence, right? It's leaning towards that camp, right? And that is what this series has been about. It's just to let folks know, yeah, if y'all enjoy splatter films from the 80s, I as in Damien Leone, sorry, I'm gonna bring that back. I'm gonna bring that shit back, right? And one thing I have to admire about this guy, right? Yeah, this man just care. We were just saying, here's what. I'm not going to send my stuff to the MPA. Nah, everything that you're going to get
Right.
borders on NC-17.
Right, which is a smart call because
Yeah.
especially in today's world, because like he taking advantage of something that's going on in Hollywood right now with the industry.
Yes.
So he just, once you can get yourself into theaters, it's kind of like same thing with like Taylor Swift and the concert films or Beyonce and the concert film stuff. If you can get yourself and you get your own distribution, you're good. Like, because the distribution tends to be a big bottleneck for a lot of people. Like, there are a lot of people who don't give a shit one way or the other. They just want to just get itself out to as many audiences, as many people as possible. Without it being online or Redbox, you can get theaters. That's a good trick. I realized we do. That's what I was studying. That's the only thing I was studying about this, which is like, oh, that's impressive on its own.
Yeah,
All right, cool.
it is. It is, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you know what I mean? That I admire that too, Jody. I just said, yeah, we going back to old school, Jody. We going back to unrated, what would show up on
Yep.
VHS is that shit. That's what we're going to, right? But at the same
Right.
time, and you could see throughout this whole series, he loves him some Freddy Krueger. He loves him some Jason
Correct.
Voorhees, and he taps into that energy, right? Just that whole unstoppable killer. I'm just gonna, the killer just dismembering people in really gloriously over the top ways, and
Right.
it's all for the audience to just revel in and be repulsed by, right? And yeah, that's what he did from day one with the first film, right? But the second one, I really admired it though, because of just how yeah, he just like had a bigger budget, so he just took things a whole new level, right? He expanded on the lore of it. Even though, and the same thing with this one here, he doesn't like what I noticed with this series here. It's kind of growing to be like a mini series, right? And that's also a smart call in terms of this how this story, how this series is, how this franchise is, right? So you could
Right.
tell that Damien is he's a student of the game, right? So yeah, he must be studied all those horror franchises, right? Those slasher franchises, right? And he tells himself, here's what, I'm not gonna do the whole inconsistent thing where a final girl will come and then like afterwards she'll get killed and then a new one will come in and then we had to change up the law and twist things around because the point is that they're bringing in new directors, new writers, and they're bringing in new perspectives on a familiar story or a character, right? And this one is like, no, I handling everything. It's just I'm gonna bring in new actors and then I'm just gonna expand the world just a little bit more, not too much, but just a little bit more, right? So there's always a consistency to it, right? So it's like that, right? So yeah, every time the man get money, he just gonna raise the stakes even more, right? So
Yeah, and good filmmaking. As I say, if you really want to just keep your material, it's how much you just want to spend on a movie. As I say, I don't think a movie, in my humble opinion, again, living in the world we should be living in an ideal world, movies should not be above 50 million. No movie.
agreed.
Right?
Unless you're doing some Lord of the Rings trilogy kind of thing.
But even that, I think a lot of it is how much of it is really be the actors. Like I think a lot of it is just actors and the weight of actors as a
And
conceit.
extras.
Well, that's no, I just talk about actors. I just talk about actors. I think
Right,
actors
right.
in terms of I think actors in terms of like just the draw of an actor especially in the 20th century was as a big thing, like such a thing now. Where they like see, oh, the reason why this movie thing is like, oh, like 50% of the budget went to the actor or something insane like that. And like we should, I like celebrity culture, but like enough. Like, some of the things had to kind of go away, Like I like these people, but the draw of an actor always kind of poison a movie a lot, in my opinion. Like, we just have to spend a ton of cash on these fucking people. So is that now? That how I feel about these kind of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I the logic of the business is still escape me at times, right? So you can move on with that.
Right. So yeah, so back to Terrifier 3, right? So of course, in preparation for this, I had to recap 2, right? And it's a good thing that I did because yeah, this follows this kind of follows neatly after the events of the last one, right?
Right.
And I will say that just rewatching Terrifier 2, I still enjoy it, right? I still have issues with the runtime being 2 hours and 18 minutes. You could tell that there was some stuff that could have been shaved, just merely dramatic moments, right? Just exposition and stuff like that, which I don't mind, right? I actually really do have actually praise the fact that Damien is saying, here's what, we're gonna give you this splatter, but we're gonna still give you a story and characters that I want you to care about, right? Even though I know a lot of people go into these shows like me, I ain't come for story, I come to see splatter, right? But then that's what makes that's what makes this franchise here interesting in this decade, right? You gotta really look at it like, oh, we kind of replicating what was done in the 80s, what we're doing it here in the 2020s, right? Where obviously there are gonna be people who will watch these Terrifier films and say, light on story, too much gore, I want more story. Come on, you gotta make sense of things, right? And that's what I felt like he did with 2. But then people will come out at 2 and be like, all right, I appreciate what you did, but come on, we're not here for story, man. We're here for gore, right? But I think that Damien evens things out very well, right? I felt like he improved it with the third one, right? I felt like this one felt significantly streamlined in terms of the story being told, right? It's not like stretching things out a little too long because, all right, we have to tell a story. We can't just be blood and guts all the time. But I felt like 2, stuff this did drag, right? It did drag at some points. Here, I felt like he kind of streamlined things a little bit, right? But anyway, so what 3 is about, right? So the big sell of 3, just right out the gate, the moment it was announced that it was going in pre-production, yeah, it's a Christmas special, right?
Right.
Yeah, we take in the Halloween vibe of the 2 films and saying, here's what, let me go Christmas with this one, right? So immediately, especially if you're a fan of 80s horror, immediately you know what Damien tapping into, right? He is tapping into a beloved and infamous Christmas horror film by the name of Silent Night, Deadly Night. A show that came out in 1984, and it was controversial in a sense in terms of, and I'll never forget this, right? is one of the most famous critiques of the film from the late great Gene Siskel, right? Which was done on the Siskel and Ebert show, right? Man literally say, right, to everybody who work on the film, and the man talking about crew members. The man call out the marketing team. He just say, all y'all should be ashamed of yourselves, Dred. Santa as a killer, what the hell, man? Why are you taking something synonymous with Christmas, something that kids love, and making them into this axe-wielding killer? How dare you? Plus, you should look for that critique, boy. I think it's on YouTube right now. When you see that, you'll crack up laughing there. But dog, that man legit hated that film. He was like, he wanted to burn that film, Dre, because of, you're making Santa a serial killer. How dare you, right? But whatever. So yeah, just right off the gate, I knew that this was the energy that this was the vibe that Damien was going for, right? But as I said, this continues from the last one, right? So yes, we follow the further adventures of the final girl, Sienna Shaw, who is played by Lauren Lavera, right? If you remember, Sienna and her brother Jonathan survived the really, really, really brutal assault by Art the Clown, right? And in the process, their mom was killed, right? It was set up early on that the father died, but we're still not sure how, right? But they set up in the second film that he was a comic book artist and he created this sort of like more of a Valkyrie-like character that will become Sienna, right? So Sienna kind of done this sort of like angel wings, but she have this armor. So it's a Valkyrie outfit basically, right? And it has this sword, but then eventually you learn that it have magic powers for reasons, So it's more than an outfit that you wore on Halloween.
They kind of do the cool world thing with this, it's an artist making the world kind of thing, and it's real.
Yeah, okay. It's that, right? Yeah, but yeah, eventually you kind of learn, kind of metaphorically actually. Yeah, she had the power to pretty much vanquish Art, right? And yeah, we all thought that Art was dead, but of course he's not dead because he had a mid-credit scene where he is reborn actually, right? And it's through the final girl of the first film, right, who is Victoria Hayes, right? So yeah, for those who don't know, right, she ended up she has ended up being disfigured. Like her face was just brutally disfigured, right? So yeah, she survived, but then in the end, the first one, she just went insane for reasons while during a TV interview, no less, and she killed the host backstage, right? And then that just eventually leads to her just being in an asylum. So long story short, she kind of helps in the rebirth, if you will, of Art the Clown, right? And together, she escapes the asylum, and together it's just this sort of Bonnie and Clyde thing, right? And they just pretty much stay dormant for some years, 5 years to be exact, right? So yeah, Sienna kind of moving on with her life, but she had to take medication because PTSD and all that kind of stuff, right? Jonathan going into college and he also going through PTSD as well. And yeah, leading up to Christmas, Art revived, I'm not gonna say how, right? And Victoria as well too. And through some circumstances, Art ends up running into Santa Claus and, yes, surprise, surprise, kill him, and then took his costume. So yeah, homie is running around. Yeah, homie, right? Get it? Wink, wink. Yeah, running around like Santa Claus, right? And yeah, as you would expect, his shenanigans ensue, right? A lot of Santa-based insanity ensues, right? But it all leads to Art pretty much going back for Sienna, right? Because he wanted to seek revenge after on the person who pretty much killed him, right? On that kind of stuff, right? So one thing they also establish is that, kind of surprise, they are demons, right? So we tapping into Evil Dead territory, right? So they could kind of die, like the body could die, but they could be revived in another body, and it's all kind of shenanigans into, right? I'll stop here, right? So the positives, right? Just to get the positives out of the way. Just like the last couple films, very well shot. Damien knows his way around the camera. I'll give him that, right? And just again nailing that 80s aesthetic, it totally works, right? And also color grading again works. Again, even though this is contemporary times, the shit still looks like you're watching some 80s movie that was restored for Blu-ray, whatever it is, right? Like you almost watch it like a Vinegar Syndrome or Arrow Films kind of re-release or something like that, right? It has that look. It nails it down, right? It also nails the vibe of those 80s horror films, right? right down to the dialogue, right? Yes, which is kind of stilted, kind of hokey at times, but that's the point. That's what they're going for. And it works. It actually kind of works as well, right? And just as a anti-Christmas movie, it nails it, right? Again, David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown, he shines. So he's a bona fide superstar, right? Because of the pantomime that he does, right? Well, the mime stuff that he does, right? He just does that so well, Dren. That's him as Art the Clown works. I just love when he does that exaggerated laugh, you know what I mean? But of course, he's not talking, he's a mime, right? When he laughs or when he smiles, it just works, right? Because, and what makes it funny too, because he has these filed down teeth as well. So when you see him, you can't help but laugh at him. But in the back of your mind, yeah, he's gonna do some fucked up stuff, right? And yeah, he does a lot of fucked up stuff in this movie, right? So yes, in case you're wondering, yes, this movie somehow managed to top the gore and violence of the last one. I was expecting this, but it did, right? And that kind of leads to a problem that I have with the show here, right? But this one last point I want to make, right, before I get to a kind of a negative, right? Also like how the story was paced, right? Compared to the last one where I felt it kind of dragged certain plots, certain points out, this one felt a lot more streamlined, right? They kind of they let the moments breathe and whatnot, right? You get your moment of characterization, not too much or whatnot, right? But you get enough for you to kind of understand what's going on. You get, the vibe of what's going on, right? So again, it's not a splatter fest from start to end. There are moments of downtime, and they help in building the story and the tension, right? So as far as negatives go, right? Again, going back to the whole miniseries thing, this is one of those shows where I feel like this is just a thing that Damien will just keep doing. He will just give you he will just explain something a little bit more, but he will hold back on certain details. So you get a little bit more detail on Sienna, right? And the costume, and you actually see her father. But unfortunately, slight spoiler, they don't see how he died in the first place, right? But you get the genesis of the whole Valkyrie character that they create, and you see how that will become a great deal later on, right? But it's still within the realm of fantasy, and you still have to suspend your disbelief and be like, oh, he created it in this world, in this comic book, but yeah, apparently it manifests itself. So for some odd reason, she is like the only person who could kill Art. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird, right? So it's one of those things, right? But again, it does not give you the full details, which is a letdown for me. So it's kind of letting you know, yep, slight spoiler again. Yeah, we're gonna get a Terrifier 4, right? I mean, not surprised. Okay. Right? But I know that might be annoying to some people, like, oh gosh, like I had to wait to the fourth one for you to tell me exactly what's going on. Like, but again, if you look at it as a mini series, it'll be like, okay, all right, I get it. No, it still don't make no sense because it's fantasy, okay. But all right, I see what you're doing here. I see what it is, right? But saying it like that because it at times you could feel as if, and it kind of goes back to older slasher franchises. It's almost as if they're just kind of figuring shit out on the fly. Right. Kind of like with Freddy Krueger, and especially with Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees' backstories. It's just like, oh, you just kind of invent that for the show. Okay, all right. That still don't make sense, but okay. They just kind of run with it because it's now a part of that character's lore, you know what I mean? So you kind of have to roll with it even though it don't make a lick of sense, right? So it's like that, right? But yeah, as far as the violence now, the big elephant in the room, right? So yes, while I do praise the fact that it managed to top the insane level of violence in the last film, right? This is one where I felt personally for me, right? I know it wouldn't be for others, especially gorehounds. I felt like this was where they really went a little too far with it, right? Because there are a couple of scenes, one in particular that takes place in the third act, right? I can't believe I talk like this, right? Yeah, boy. So this is the weird thing about this show, right? This is kind of like the love-hate thing I have for this franchise, right? On the one hand, I want to enjoy it because it's just this gleeful gore fest, right? It don't give a fuck about what you think. It's just, here's what anybody could get, man, woman, child, anybody could get in this show. It's going to be creative. It's going to be so over the top. Yes, it's going to show off practical effects, because that's why these deaths are there in the first place. Going back to 80s horror yet again, we have to show off just how dread with practical effects is, right? So yes, it's buckets and buckets and buckets of blood going to be spraying in people's face and all that kind of stuff. That's the point, right? But that's what it is. It's about the art, behind the craft, right? That's what it is, right? It's supposed to be there's supposed to be an art behind the whole goriness, right? That's the point of it, right? But there's another part of it where it's like, and you will see this term pop up when it comes to talking about this film in particular, sadistic. It kind of leans a little too much on the sadistic side of things, right? I know for diehard fans, will be like, yes, this is what I want, this is what I expect. But for other people, like, all right, like I'll say, I find myself in the middle, right? Like, I understand the nature of the show. I went into the show knowing what to expect, right? But I won't lie, boy, there were a couple deaths where I was like, no, they're taking this thing way, way, way too far, right? And especially in that third act, which I'm not gonna spoil, right? But what I will say, boy, it's probably the most disturbing moment in the entire film, right? It's just this. All right, best way I could sum it up, right, without spoiling much, right? Think about the third act of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the old one, the 1974 one, which I covered in Six Real Deep, right? Think about that, but with Art the Clown and Victoria and blood and guts and torture. Think about it like that. Right. Think about it like that, and you'll get the gist of where I'm coming from, right? Yeah, because that shit was admittedly hard to watch, right? Especially with what went down and what was going on. I would admit, I was just like I didn't walk away from it, right? It was just like, I sort of just watch in stone silence, just watching all this, but wow, but I'm supposed to have fun watching this. And that's the problem. Right. That's the issue though, because with this show, the nature of the show, right? And the audience is going for, you kind of have to, for those people, they will have fun seeing stuff like this. They will have fun seeing people get dismembered or, tortured or whatnot, right? But there had to be a limit, man. And in this one, it was just like, nah, fuck a limit, right? We just going all in, right? We don't care what you think. We don't care if you was laughing over the past two acts. In this one, you're gonna shut the fuck up and just take in everything that happened, right? And yeah, it was too much, but to the point where I don't even know if I can recap this, right? And last spoiler I'll give for this, way. And this was kind of a letdown for me, but given the nature of the show and because we're gonna get a sequel anyway, understand. Yeah, the ending was kind of a downer hearse. I was like, oh gosh, why had it ended like this, man? Like, come on, man, really? But don't worry, we'll see what happens in the next one. But come on, man, it's a Christmas movie, though. You really want to end like that? And yeah, Damien and the team was like, yep, we're gonna end it just like that. Sorry, if you was laughing all the way through, well, we're sorry. You're not gonna be laughing by the end of the show. Sorry, but that's just how it is, right? So yeah, there is this element of mean-spiritedness throughout the entirety of this movie, right? And even when it comes to kids' us, because yeah, remember, it's Christmas. So yeah, there are kids in this movie, but us, even in this show, right? So thankfully, Damien does not go that far to show kids being killed or whatnot, right?
Okay, no problem.
But kids are killed in this movie.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes it's funny. Like there's one involved in a department store, because of course we have to have the department store trope, right? If you saw Elf, if you saw A Christmas Story, if you saw Bad Santa, of course we have to do the department store Santa, right?
I call it Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2. We have to do the department store Santa. We have to do that bit, right? But yeah, when that ends, well, I was like, okay, so we really doing this? Is that type of show? Okay. But right, so that's to wrap things up, right? You will know it is what show you're getting into right from the intro, right? And I hear apparently some people during screenings walk out after that intro, or some people, it's the typical thing when it comes to movies like this. Oh, people will let out the simmer, people will vomit,
and then they'll show footage of watching people in black and white or in night vision in the theaters freaking out.
Real paranormal activity shit, right?
Right.
People
paranormal
shock,
activity
right?
popularized that. That shock value.
Yeah. Just that intro alone, which I actually thought was well put together, though. Like that is That leans a lot into the whole Silent Night, Deadly Night thing, right? But yeah, that intro alone tells you the type of show you're gonna get into, right? But even then, though, like everything else after that tops it, boy. Just in terms of the violence, the gore, and just the mean spiritedness of it all, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, this is that anti-Christmas movie, true and true, boy. But I don't know, I just kind of wanted to walk out of this one with that kind of a sick smile on my face. But with this one, I was like, nah, boy. I kind of walk out, kind of just disturbed and depressed, honestly, with how it ends, right? Just,
Right.
and if that was the intention, well, okay, mission accomplished, man. But I don't know, I wanted a more upbeat by Terrifier standards ending, right? But to be fair, it does lead to a sequel, right? So I guess that's why it ends the way it does, right? But it is what it is, right? But yeah, through it all though, yeah, the craft is there, right? You know, just solid direction and practical effects from start to end, right? And I'll close this, right? Lauren Lavera, yes, she will go down as one of the greatest, not just final girls, but scream queens ever. Just what she has put through in these films. Well, it's part 2 and 3. In particular, the third one, boy, it is like excruciating what she goes through, boy, and just somehow, some way, she just makes it through, boy. Is amazing. I can't say inspirational. It's just amazing, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, this show lived up to the hype. It is exactly how it is advertised. It is a Christmas splatter film. It is a Christmas Terrifier film. It is a Christmas movie with Art the Clown. So you get exactly what you pay for or what you spend your time watching, right? But yeah, this is not for the faint of heart. And I would imagine even people who were kind on Terrifier too because of how it was this indie movie that was made for cheap and somehow made a shit ton of money. I just admire it for the craft and all that too. I imagine even people who just admire that film because of what it managed to do, like me, would sit through this and find this to be an endurance test, especially that third act. Like I say, that third act, boy, woo, wow, goddamn, right? So yeah, as you would expect, don't eat nothing while you're watching this, right? I would recommend, if you are the sick type who want to watch this shit for Christmas Day, just get your food in either like long before or afterwards. Like when it's done, eat your food or before, right? Because yeah, there are some moments where it might get that gag reflex, active, right? And I'll stop there, right? So yeah, for me, rating wise, I will give this a lighter decent 3.5 out of 5. It's worth checking out. I did not enjoy it as much as the last one, unfortunately, because of that downer ending and just about how excruciating that third act was, even by Terrifier standards. But again, Damien is just on to something. And just in retrospect, though, like I would say whenever the series wraps up, right? I hope it don't go to like 10 or 12, like a Friday 13th or
yeah, but that the way how things shape it up. I mean, look, if the movie costs $2 billion and they make it back the money, I mean, that isn't it?
I know, but what I will say, right? Just to wrap things up, I guess you could weigh in on this, right? I would love to see this be a franchise where, yes, it gets better in terms of the story and in terms of the blood and the guts and the stuff that you expect, right? And yes, I will have to accept that there will be these envelope pushing moments, these moments where they take the blood and guts way too far. I have to accept that. So yes, I had to kind of go into Terrifier 4 just like, here's what, they're just gonna, at this point they probably might kill like animals in 4 just because, right? But it's just
that's the problem. That keeps stepping it up.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah,
right?
that's
that's the problem. It's both the blessing and the curse, right? They have to step it up because of the nature of the franchise and for what the second and first one did, and especially this third one. But you're gonna reach a point where it's like, all right, you just want to, you just want to like nauseate people, right? Like this is the whole point. Right. You just want to keep nauseating people, So we God forbid we're gonna go into like human centipede territory next year. Like, what are you trying to do, bro?
Right.
So God forbid they don't go that far, right?
Or something even worse, that like what do you call it, boy? That one Serbian film or something like that.
Oh yeah, like a Serbian film, like God forbid. Let's not go there, please. Let's not go there, Damien. Let's not go there, right? But at the same time, I would love to see when this franchise ends, if he decides to stop it and somebody else comes in and continue on, right? The consistency of it, like I want it to be like like a show that gets a franchise that gets better with every installment, and not like how with the Friday 13th and the Freddy's and the Halloween ones, where it would start off good, but then it dip, then it go good, then it just nosedive afterwards, right? As times go on. I hope that we don't get that with this franchise. Like if Damien sticks his guns, this could be like probably one of the best slasher films, better for worse, that we get, like ever, in my opinion, right? But I just hope that he keeps that consistency, right? But unfortunately, it will, end up rubbing people off the wrong way with how every installment will just have to keep topping itself up, right? So I'll stop it. I'll leave it at that. Ricardo, again, I know that you haven't seen any of these films, but just based on what it is you see, right? What you think about it being like just so consistent that they end up being like a great, slasher franchise?
Yeah, like that's why I was kind of felt about it. Like I'm just seeing it as it is. I was like, oh right. To me, it sell itself because of the the edgelord value of it. That's what I feel like. Sorry, like that's how I feel about it. It's just a bunch of edgelord shit. That's what they're doing with it.
And I believe me, folks, it is edgelord shitter. It is edgelord shitter. Trust me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That way I feel like just the shock value of it is the sell down. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I suppose moving on.
Yeah, and last thing,
I don't feel no way about it because of that. It's like, all right, well, I mean, I get it.
Yeah, and last thing before we move on, right? I think for me the most amazing thing about this franchise so far, right, is that you see it as, if you were to contrast it to a slasher film from the 80s, right? And especially the critical reception of those films, right? Because if you know about Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, yeah, they hated most slasher films, right? They hated most of them, especially involving, women, right? Because they felt they were they had a lot of misogyny to it.
They tend to be, yeah.
Yeah, but here we are now in the 2020s now, and we have, 2 and 3 which came out in this decade, right? And they are being praised for pretty much doing the same thing that those franchises did back in the 80s.
I get the feeling that have mainstream critics that already care for this as it is. I just think its mere sell is the fact that it just off the beaten path now. Oh well, we don't get to it's the Sega ad now. You're not like your mother's thing. That's what it is. Just feeling like it is something that know that authority. So that's it. Like that's what I'm getting from it. I don't get anything else. So it's like whatever.
Yeah, it's probably that, right? So yeah, these are not going to be critical darlings, right? But
especially in today's world, where all these people like liberal snowflakes, some bullshit they try to sell to be pseudo rebellious, whatever.
Yeah,
like it's that part of the marketing now. Much like with Joker, like how Joker sell itself, or even like something like Venom, is that whatever.
But lastly, as they talk about Joker, right? So you see, imagine. A movie about a clown. Another movie about a clown might should get more praise and get more talk, more discussion than Joker Folia do. Like this process that for a second.
Joker Folia dance.
Yeah, Folia dance. Yeah, again,
Folia dance.
Yeah, Folia dance, right? And yeah, us like Terrifier 3 beat Joker Folia doing it in the box office, right? Like what? Where are we? What kind of dimension is this? Right? This indie release film, right? Beat out a Warner Brothers movie based on a DC comics character. What going on here, right? But that's just a testament just to the bravery and the balls that Damien have to do this, right? But again, it just all depends on your mindset, right? If you just love envelope pushing content, then yeah, you will enjoy True, right? But for me, there was a limit boy, and that man pushed that limit boy, for better and for worse, right? For this one, but hey, we'll see how far he goes with Terrifier 4, right? But in the meantime, I mean, I can't be mad with the man, right? Keep doing your thing, keep pushing until you reach the point where, yeah, literally they ban your film in the States. Like, once you reach that stage where you'll be like, all right, maybe I should just kind of call it quits from here. When my movie is banned in the States in the 2020s, right? But in the meantime, yeah, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, yeah, definitely check out Terrifier 3. But again, if you sick enough to watch this for Christmas, especially Christmas Day, yeah, I would recommend eating like long before. And or in the case if you want to eat, if you want to watch it before you eat, yeah, just eat after you watch this, right? Because yeah, this will do numbers on your stomach, right? Trust me on that, right? Yeah.